Okay, there is a war game about big stompy robots. And it has a novel. How would you imagine this novel to be? Would you turn it into a huge space opera with house lords and huge fleets and massive armies? Would you make it a tome of intrigue and political maneuvering? Or would you make it an action-packed blast? If the last one was your answer, you will truly love this book. Welcome to our review of Ghost of Winter by Stephen Kenson. All his life, Sturm Kintaro wanted to be a MechWarrior. Now he is one, untested in combat, but eager to show his prowess and transferred away from the backwater planet core. But he is about to get a bigger opportunity than he ever wanted, when a band of interstellar pirates launches a surprise attack and takes control of the planet. After the rout, Sturm finds himself stranded in the frozen wastes of core, with no mech, no help, and no hope, until he stumbles upon a long-hidden secret, one that will help him prove himself a worthy MechWarrior. Now Sturm must wage a one-man war against the invading force and resurrect a ghostly legend of core, if he is going to save his people from annihilation. This book is the first of a so-called MechWarrior series. These were books that were made after the computer games, and the idea was to create more simple, more accessible stories to win a few of those gamers for the overall BattleTech universe. And I must say, this book delivers. The events take place on a small planet in the near Periphery, far away from the shenanigans of the House Lords, but not far away to be exotic or forgotten in time. It is a mining outpost, basically ruled by a company with very little to do. And suddenly, it's under attack. I think it's always a bit ridiculous if a cover text of a book already disassembles the first plot twist, because in the book the attackers are masquerading as clanners. But yes, they are pirates, although they do use clan mechs. And they succeed in destroying the mech lands that is ordered to protect the planet. Sturm is driven out into the frozen wastes in the wilderness, and his mech is destroyed. But then he discovers the secret that brought the pirates to the planet. The story itself is quite simple. I would compare it to one of those B-movies or action flicks that just gives you a good time without being too overbearing or too difficult to digest. You will soon recognize that Mr. Kenson is not the most refined writer. Sadly, in the beginning he uses far too much space for world building and explanations, which makes this critical part of a book a bit slow. However, rest assured, later he takes off pace and it becomes better. Although another problem he has, there are not really surprising twists in the book. Most of them you can see from some time away if you know the genre good enough. But you know what? That's okay, because it's still a good story. There's a lot of action in it, and it's fun to read, and that's the most important thing about this book. If you're trying to find a great new novel that opens your horizon and gives you the ability to think about different subjects and new ideas, then this book is not for you. To be as accessible as it was supposed to be, it has to be more simpler, more to the ground. And that's also why the Periphery was taken as a subject. You don't have to bother with house lords, khans, and all the political shenanigans that are haunting the inner sphere. You can just focus yourself on the mech combat. So, if you are a dedicated lore seeker who wants to learn more about the political maneuvers of the great houses, you can also pass this book. I personally took immense joy in reading it because the story is interesting and exciting. And what I really loved were the characters. If you followed my past reviews, you know that I'm very peculiar about two things. Characters should be capable, and characters should be realistic. I want them to act like they would really act. And that's what the characters here do. You, as a reader, will not always agree with them, but you can see why are they making these decisions. Mr. Kenson also quite often wrote about what the inner monologue of his characters is, and that helps in this regard a bit. But nonetheless, it's nice to see characters that not at odds with themselves and act like true human beings. And they do so reasonably well. Both the main protagonist, Sturm Kintaro, as well as his adversary, Pirate Queen Susie Ryan, have good motivations for their actions, and they pursue them with dedication and quite a lot of thought. And that is for me something that elevates any kind of book. There is no great deus ex machina or strange, wonderful miracle surprise, but just actions and consequences, and it's well made. So, if you just want to have a good time with a nice book about stumpy robots, grab Ghosts of Winter. I do recommend it.